You guys, this is it. I am incredibly psyched and thrilled, and we're doing it. We are launching Over It, which is your weekly, I guess weekly for now, who knows, maybe daily eventually, show about stuff. Like, I know a lot of people think we only talk about politics. We don't. We actually have lives outside politics, and we are here to talk about all of it with you, with each other. So send us your comments, send us your stuff, and we will get to it. Um, I'm Julie Roginski. I am joined by Tara Setmayer, Michelle Kinney, both of the fabulous Seneca Project. If you haven't checked out their incredible work, you should. And the amazing Joanne Carducci, aka JoJo from Jers, which for those of you who don't know, greatest state in the nation. And Tara and I would agree, Michelle has yet to cross the Hudson River to acknowledge the greatness that is the Garden State. But the rest of us, we already know what the best state in the nation is, even though Tara and I are exiles and don't live there anymore. However, our hearts are still with the Jers.
My family still lives there.
It's mine.
I'm still representing.
Yeah, so you're representing the Jers for us. So you guys, before we get to all the other stuff that's happening in the world, let's talk about the most important thing that's happening this week, which is my least favorite holiday and something that though I'm very happily married, I'm completely over, which is Valentine's Day. I am over it. And I know that there is a lot of disagreement with me on this, especially from you, Tara, but let me explain to you why I'm over Valentine's Day. I was over it when I was single. I was over it when I was happily dating. I've been over it since I've been happily married because it's a bullshit made up holiday by Hallmark or whoever it's made up for. And all it does is drive people to go to really crappy restaurants and buy really bad Russell Stover candies. I'm sorry. I know people like them. I can't stand them. And it basically is like the one day of the year that you're told to treat your significant other well. And if not, you're supposed to sit around and cry that you're by yourself, which PS, if anybody here is by themselves, I spent many years by myself. There's something called Galentine's, which is so awesome because you just get to go out with your girlfriends and get drunk and trash that did you wrong and did you dirty back in the day. But like, why are you supposed to take this one day out of the year to treat somebody well or to acknowledge that you're in a relationship? Why is it not every day? More importantly, why are we sitting here making people feel bad that they don't have a significant other when in fact we should be thrilled that they are hanging out by themselves and that they love themselves and not wasting their time with some shitty boyfriend because they happen to need a date for Valentine's Day. Thoughts, complaints, Tara, I will go to you because I know that you are like a total sap and disagree with me and my cynicism.
I mean, what would ever have given you that impression that I absolutely love Valentine's Day? Okay. See the rest of my house. It is completely decked out and I will send pictures. Look, I hear you. And I was one of those people for a long time. I was single for a long time. I didn't get married until I was 38. So, I understand the Valentine's Day, the pressure on people to be with someone and then it making you feel like shit when you're not. And I used to feel like that. And my mom would send me flowers to my job or like my mom would always do stuff to make me not feel alone. And so, but it's like ever since we were kids, when we would get the little like hearts in our class, like with the little like be minds on them. What are they called? Like the little like crappy candies. I wasn't really into candy, but you used to like look forward to
Echo hearts.
Yes, those things.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. My mom and I have always just been the kind of people that celebrate everything because every little thing that brings happiness and joy, you can find something in that. And so my mom was a single parent, so it was always just us. And so for me, when I got married, I married an amazing man and I have a wonderful relationship and love is like, it's a centerpiece of it's almost like a national holiday for us. And for those who know why. And so we embrace it. And it's true though. Like we kind of laugh about what are we going to do for Valentine's Day every year because we are the kind of couple that we go out to dinner all the time. We do things together all the time. Every weekend we're doing something. whether it's going to vineyards, whether it's taking, weekend trips, whether it's going on a cooking classes, pottery things, like we're always doing something. And so Valentine's Day, for a lot of people that don't have that or don't have the ability to do that, or maybe their relationships kind of need that extra spark on Valentine's Day, they use that day as that platform. But for us, we always try to do something different. And so this year we are actually going to do one of the iFly thing,
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Tell me more. That sounds awesome.
So
like with the wings?
Yeah, like, so if you like live out in the suburbs, you see these big things. It's this called iFly, and they simulate skydiving. So you get like in the suit and you get like in the fan thing, and it simulates what it's like to free
you're
fall.
like in the
so cool.
Yes,
I've seen it online or something.
Yeah, so Marcel has wanted to do this for a long time. I've actually been skydiving, like for real, and he never has. So I was always like, nah, whatever, this can't compare. I've done the real thing, but he hasn't. So I was like, you know what? Let's do this. That'll be cool. So he's like, yeah, let's do that. And we're probably going to go to the gun range as well, because there's a gun range right next to it. And so we're going to shoot guns and fly on Valentine's Day.
Oh, and the couple that shoots together.
Yes.
That's so romantic.
Yes. But I'm saying, like, we try to do, but we also do the romantic thing too. But like, I hear you, and I don't want you to be a Scrooge about it, Julie. I say people embrace Valentine's Day. You don't have to do it traditionally. Just celebrate it as an extra day of love, whatever that means for you. I used to dress my cat up in a little bow tie back when Tiki was alive, and before I had my husband. Tiki was my Valentine for many years. So it's okay. Just love yourself if you have to. Whatever that means.
Love yourself, folks.
I agree. I'm not being a Scrooge. I'm not being a Scrooge. I just want people to know. Again, I have like truly an incredible marriage. So for me to say this really means something. I just want people to know that if they're by themselves this Valentine's Day, like, don't feel like shit.
Right.
That's all I want people to know. And don't let people like Tara, who is very sappy, make you feel like you're missing out because you're not with some amazing husband going skydiving / shooting. I don't know who like your target is at the gun range.
I love it. I mean, it sounds like like 2/3 of like some triathlon shit. We were like, we're gonna switch you.
Listen, the other option, we had two other options, which was to go to a dueling piano thing, which was happening at one of our favorite vineyards, but we didn't like the menu. And so we were like, no, because we love that. And the other option was to go to a dinner theater performance where it was like a pirate theme, and we were going to dress up, and there was a costume contest. And if there's a contest, we're for it. So, but it was sold out by the time we found out. So, you find crazy things to do.
Tara, the way you just set up my craziest of all time Valentine's story, it's like it's actually kind of unbelievable. Because did you say dinner theater thing?
Yes.
Oh,
all right.
Friends don't let friends go to dinner theater. Anyways, keep going.
May I?
Michelle, as the theater major here, is going to have
ladies and
to
gentlemen,
say about
children
that
of all ages, please gather round, because this is a story that I cannot believe I get to share, and I hope to God I don't get sued for disclosing some identifying information. The story is public info, so at least I know I'm covered there. But I will say, speaking of romance and failed romance and being alone, yes, thank you, trolls, very much. Yes, I was on Bumble. Yes, I was, because I was divorced and didn't know how the fuck to date nowadays, right? So I was like, I guess we swipe. I don't know, until I saw my ex-husband on there, which was crazy. Which is we matched. How about that? Yeah. But anyway, so I can't disclose who, but I meet someone, lovely gentleman. We connect. Everything's going great. It's wonderful, fun chit chat. We want to meet for dinner. So we go to dinner. Everything's going great. I'm like, this guy is awesome. Like he's perfect. And then I have this joke that I tell about a family member of mine who used to fly an airplane in the Air Force, and that airplane dropped bombs in a conflict that we were once in. And I joke like to an icebreaker, like, oh, my blankety blank, killed lots of people. And then, it's always like, what? And then normally that's the response. And in this case, lovely gentleman goes, oh, my sister is a murderer too. And I was like,
wait, what?
What?
And he wasn't laughing. No, he wasn't laughing. And I was like, and then you know how like tunnel vision, like all of a sudden you're in a restaurant and everything just goes quiet, and like you just kind of focus in on what the person in front of you. So I'm like, where am I? I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania. Where did I park?
Well, that was the first mistake.
uh-huh. And then I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean she's a murderer? And then he's like, oh yeah, she was on the news like several years ago. He's like, she's my best friend in all the world, and we're gonna live together when she gets out of prison. And I was like,
No.
what did she do?
What?
So here's what's happened. Okay. His sister, Valentine's Day, dinner theater at a hotel in Maryland. This is stuff they did on fucking Primetime Live and shit. Okay. She brings her husband to the hotel, drugs him,
No.
chops him up,
Oh my
burns the hotel down.
what?
What?
When I was younger, I saw the story going.
Are there people in this hotel that she burns it down?
Burn the hotel down. And so thinking that they can't find the evidence to prove that she did the thing. So he's chopped up in little pieces. They find his teeth or something. And she gets caught.
Jesus Christ.
This is awful.
I told you this was the craziest Valentine's story ever in
We-
history.
Listen, just to let folks understand that, like, when we talked about this, because we want people to understand that this is going to be a show that's very cathartic, where we talk about all kinds of things. Don't worry, folks. We will talk politics too. We know you're used to us doing that, but we need some catharsis.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what, when Joe said, "Oh, I've got a story," I was like, "Don't tell us." She's like, "It's unbelievable."
No, we're like,
Well,
save it.
I was like, "Save it." So our reactions right now are the same as y'all's, because we're like, "What the actual fuck is this story?"
Wait, keep
Google
going.
this shit.
Keep going.
Wait, yeah, we need to hear the
Google
end.
this.
Wrapping the rest of the
First of
show
all-
just for the story. Keep going.
Google this shit. It is true. His sister was on all those like magazine shows, all the things. She is still, I believe, in prison. But as he went down this like rabbit hole, and I'm thinking, how do I get out of here? Everything went just quiet. And he's like, did I ruin the mood? And I was like,
You think?
I go,
Yeah.
why didn't you mention this sooner? And he goes, it didn't come up.
Mm, mm.
Well, I'm assuming something else didn't come up either, because I assume that date was over pretty quick.
Yeah, did you go home? Well, we're happy to see you alive. Did you go home?
Nothing came up except a little.
So I have a very important question to
Wait,
ask.
did you leave? Well, how did
Oh,
you end it?
Oh
That was
no,
my
no, no. I was like, I parked in front. I was gonna park. There was a parking spot like behind the restaurant up on a hill. And I was like, I don't know, that's dark. And I waited for a spot in front. And then he goes, I guess I'm not getting a kiss goodnight. And I was like, no,
No.
I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. But all of this is just a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Wow.
what was the question?
So I'm kind of speechless. My question is, my husband and I went to a really creepy restaurant in Easton, Pennsylvania, where we thought we were going to be chopped up. And I'm wondering if do you remember the name of this?
Honestly, the restaurant was lovely. But you know what's even better about this story? Speaking of Valentine's, if you're alone, that wasn't my worst Bumble date. It wasn't my worst by
Oh
like
my
a factor of
God.
100. It wasn't my worst. And I will spare those stories for now. But I will say, imagine how bad the other ones had to be. I'll just say, preface this. The first guy grabbed my arms over the diner table and said, you lift too much weight. Within 2
No.
minutes of meeting him. 2
Oh
minutes.
no. See,
And then,
this
and then
is
within 5 minutes, he goes, by the way,
No.
I have COVID.
oh my
Oh,
God. Listen, I just want to say, because I see people in the chat, they're like, wait, I got here late, reset, what did I just walk into? So Teresa Marlene, just so that you know, we started off with what we were over, because our show is called
Sorry.
Over It. And this is how we're kind of, the format's going to be. We're going to start talking about what we're over. And sometimes it's going to be political. Sometimes it's going to be like what's in our regular everyday lives. And since Valentine's Day is coming up on Tuesday, Julie is the Grinch of Valentine's Day, and she's over Valentine's Day.
I mean, after this story, isn't everybody over Valentine's Day? I'm sorry.
so we kind
Ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case.
We've kind of gone off on a tangent here about our horrible Valentine's Day things. I talked about how wonderful Valentine's Day is, and then Joe went into like a murder theater, literally, and now Michelle is up, and then we're going to start talking about a couple of other
Well,
things.
I won't spend too much time, but I'm in the Julie camp here, where I just think it's kind of nonsense. Sorry. Because you know what, my husband and I, I've been married for almost 10 years, and my husband and I feel like in the beginning, like really tried to do something or make a point to do something. And it's like you go out, there's like a prefix menu. I end up eating too much. It's expensive. And it's kind of like New Year's Eve, I think, in that kind of point. It's like forced joy, you know what I mean? And so, I don't know. Most of the time, if it's a Valentine's Day, if I want to think about it, it's like, we just kind of sit at home and watch a movie, or we watch Veep or South Park or something like that. And, we kind of do that any day, like every day anyway. So I feel like the last time we went to a dinner, we went to, was it Maison Pickle or something on 84th
Ooh,
Street?
I love
Yeah,
that.
It was really, really good, but it was just like I ate so much food. I didn't feel well after. So, and to the
I
and
don't
to the
know. I think you guys are doing Valentine's Day all wrong.
no,
gotta
I
lie.
just
You gotta do
Make it
things.
yours. Just make
and
it
the
doesn't have to
markup,
go-
the
Duh,
markup
you don't
on
have to do
flowers. I just think it's
Yeah.
kind of silly. And I just
that.
and to the single gals and guys out there, again, I was also single for a very, very long time, or I had terrible boyfriends. So I think maybe that's part of it too. It's just like, you don't need that to have a nice time, or you don't need that to make, to feel bad about yourself. Cause I feel like the capitalist aspect of it too is there's like a forced, if you are not with someone, if you're not celebrating, you don't have it all. And I always feel really, really bad about that. So I don't know,
Well,
that's-
I think then that people like who still love like me.
Like us.
We need to take it back from the commercialized version of it. That's
Yeah.
kind of that's what I'm saying. My husband and I are going to shoot guns. Okay. There's nothing romantic about that in the traditional sense of Valentine's Day.
Depends
We're
on who
doing
you're
it
shooting.
together. So
I
you know what I mean?
will say at the end of all of that, I will say, as a child, my grandmother, who passed away when I was 6, every single year she would give my sister and I boxes with a heart on it with
Oh.
chocolates in it, and they were like little tiny
Yeah.
things. And I remember it being so special, and it had like a little I don't know, like this pattern or texture on it. And I
Yes.
would put a piece of paper on it with a crayon, and I would color over it. And I have that memory. And then after my grandmother passed away, my mom really tried to keep up the tradition, at least with me, getting me the chocolates every year. And it was just kind of a special thing. So I think I think I
do
identify
it.
a little bit more like that.
And you should
Yeah.
do that every year in honor of your grandma.
Yeah.
Always
You're
to
special
celebrate
lady.
things. I think we need to make love great again. And so that's my vote. I'm not going to let you guys ruin it for me.
All right. Well,
My kids get a boo basket, like a little Valentine's boo basket. They get one for every holiday, which is like a thing. But like they just wake up in the morning and it's sitting out, and it's got like 1 or 2 candies in it, and like maybe a new sports bottle or something like that. And some like Abby got a new Starbucks, a heart bottle. Like it's just
Look,
a little.
My mom still puts Easter baskets in our tree. I'm going to be 50 in September every year. Okay. So like that's
Aw.
like seriously. And when my husband and I got married, my mom started doing it for him too. So
Oh,
we
that's-
literally get real like Easter baskets, like 10-year-olds with kind of cool stuff in it though. In our tree. Like if my mom is nearby or she's with us, which for most Easter she has been for the last couple years, but like one year, and then we'll get off this. But one year we were down in we had a house in the Florida Keys. My parents lived down there for many, many years. And we were down there visiting because sometimes Easter is around my husband's birthday. And my mom put a chocolate Easter bunny in the palm tree. But it was Florida.
Oh no!
Oh
So
no!
she was like, "Oh shit!"
was it
And
like,
the Easter
literally-
bunny was like, "By the time
Oh
we got it."
no!
We were like, "We won't do that again." So it turned into a stuffed Easter bunny after that when we were down there. But anyway,
so
I make a joke about Marjorie Taylor Greene that she's so stupid she could hide her own Easter eggs.
well, I concur. I concur.
not for this podcast, but for the next one, since we're talking about crazy dates, remind me to share the story of me and a guy who turned out to be the descendant of a very, very famous Nazi.
Oh my
Oh
god!
weird.
Yeah, we're gonna say
I'll save that story.
that's a good coffee and conversation.
Oh,
yeah,
That's a
topic
good
next
Saturday
time.
talk.
Yeah, it's a Saturday talk. And so I just want people to know who are still single, who may be watching. God, I think we've all, because all of us either got married late or in Joe's case, it didn't work out. Like we've all kissed a lot. Well, I mean, not, but
Yes.
a lot of frogs.
Yeah. Don't give up. Don't give up on hope.
Don't give up. He's out
Don't
there.
give up on
She's
love.
out there, or maybe not. and your friends are
And
out there.
that's fine too, because you know what?
Maybe you are your frog. You could be
You
your
are
own
the frog.
frog. They
That's
got lots of devices for that, folks. I mean, there's
All
just
right,
25.
Michelle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what are you over?
Tara going flying this weekend. What are you over?
Oh, well,
Driving.
this bringing it into politics a little bit, right? So I am over traveling. I'm over my fear of flying, which I have been struggling with for most of my adult life. I did not get on my first airplane until I was 17 years old because growing up in the 80s and 90s, you know, my family of 4, it was very expensive for us to fly. So it's just not something we did. We drove everywhere. And so the first time I got an airplane was with my high school show choir. We were performing at Disney World. And then 9/11 happened very shortly after that. And so I was just never very comfortable with it. I couldn't wrap my head around the mechanisms or the physics or the science behind it. And I usually have to take Xanax or drink many, many Bloody Marys. Not that I am advocating that anyone do that, but that just is what works for me. So, you know, I used to work with someone who was a pilot and was helpful to me in trying to understand how flying is very normal and all the noises that I'm hearing. And it really, really took me years to get over my fear of flying. And I got to a place last year where I actually started to enjoy it. And then Donald Trump became president. And so did Elon Musk. Elon Musk and Donald Trump both became president. You know, they must be so proud. And I have to admit, gutting the FAA and the air traffic controller system was not on my bingo card. And I feel like, and maybe somebody else is listening might feel like this too, that all the logic and all the things that I learned and had to unlearn, all of those things and all the work that I had to do is out the window. And on my personal private Instagram that I have for friends and family, I asked yesterday, you know, I'm freaking out a little bit about this. Like, is anyone else going through this? And I kid you not, within 10 minutes, 15 people messaged me, friends, family, that, you know, I've got to get on 4 flights with my kids and my wife this weekend. I've never been so nervous in my life. My husband has to go back to work and traveling once a week. I'm a wreck. And a lot of these people were like, I never had a fear of this before. And it's not about the flying per se. It's not about Boeing planes or whatever else that might be rickety or unreliable. This is about government interference into safety, into our safety as Americans, and the things that we are counting on. And this is where government comes in to keep us safe. And I'm sure everyone that's listening here understands that, whether it be, you know, our health with the food that we eat, the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, traffic laws. I mean, there's so many things that these guardrails in place to keep us safe. And one of them I never considered was that Donald Trump and Sean Duffy and Elon Musk would dismantle the FAA and the safety of us being in the air. And since then, obviously, there has been a really, really unfortunate plane accident. It was the worst one of loss of life since September 11th. And now I don't know if this is just because we're hearing more about it now, but it just seems as though like there was another plane crash, and then there was another plane collision in Scottsdale, Arizona the other day. And it's just, I'm so over it. And I have to travel soon, and I'm freaking out a little bit. And I don't know if that's rational, but I have to say, hearing from other people that they're going through the same thing.
Look at the comments. People are like, you're not alone, Michelle. You're not alone.
Okay, I'm reading now. Yeah, see? And like, safety should not be a partisan issue. That's the thing I don't understand. I don't know how Republicans can sit there and make these decisions and confirm these people. Sean Duffy, Real World, whatever, Boston, 1997, is qualified to be running transportation.
They don't think it's going to happen to them. That's the problem. You never think it's going to happen to you until the Leopard.
Right. You're like, oh, well, I fly, you know, my own plane or whatever, you know, stupid thing. But this is, you know, my husband said to me, he's like, well, you know, if this starts to happen, I mean, America will come to a halt if people can't fly. And I was like, well, don't you think that's kind of the point?
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep. Chaos.
And
terror.
negligence.
Exactly.
And negligence. And I mean, this is really, it feels like terrorism in a way.
Mhm.
Stochastic terrorism.
side.
There's a word for it. It's called stochastic terrorism.
I did
Google it,
not
folks.
know that that was a thing, and I'm
Yes.
going to start
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
And
I
it's a
gotta tell you,
convenient vehicle for othering too, which is nice for them. They
Yeah.
get a double whammy, right? Because they get to boogeyman others totally irrationally at the same time.
well, and not to get on a tangent about safety and the feeling of safety, but you know, I feel like there's a few moments in my life where I realized that the illusion of safety was just that. It was an illusion. One of them was September 11th. The next one was COVID. And I feel like I'm living in another one right now. And it's just like that sort of shell that you put yourself around to just kind of get through the day and to get you through your life. And you're like, I feel safe until you realize that you might not be. And there's things that are just completely not within your control anymore. And I think those are the things that I'm personally really, really struggling with right now. Because again, those guardrails, whether it be the NIH, the CDC, the FDA, the FAA, all of those things that we count on, that we pay for, are no longer there to keep us safe. And it's something that honestly keeps me up at night. So,
I got to
I'm
tell you,
over it.
because I actually felt exactly the same all this past weekend, except for our wonderful coffee and conversation.
Yeah.
Hour and a half, which was so great. But I was kind of like feeling unsettled, and I was thinking, why don't I feel like what's going on?
Mhm.
I thought about it. And then I realized that I feel now exactly the way that I felt on 9/11. And let me explain why really briefly. As she wrote a newsletter on Substack on Salty Politics about it. You can, if you want more details, you could read it. But I was actually with the Senate on 9/11. So I was working in the Senate. And for whatever reason, my boss, the senator who I was working for, sent everybody else home once the plane hit the Pentagon, but said to me, you're coming with me. And I was like, do we have a murder-suicide pact? Like, why am I staying with you? So anyway, so we end up at the Capitol Police, which is where they evacuated the members of the House and the Senate, which is right across the street from where we were working. And I got to tell you, I was one of the very few staffers there because most senators and members sent their staff home, and there was no press. So these guys were left to their own devices. And I got to talk about real world. I got to see what they were like behind closed doors in a moment of crisis without any guardrails, right? No press to perform for, no staff to keep them sane. Just like, how are they? Like, what were they like? And again, I'm not going to retell the whole story here. You can go read it on Substack, but suffice it to say, and I'm so sorry to be the bearer of bad news, if people knew what they were like behind closed doors during a terrorist attack, back when we had much more responsible people in elected office, both Democrats and Republicans, than we do today, your head would have exploded.
Mhm.
It took me 24 years to finally share the story, because for 24 years, I was like, I don't really want to let people know how fucked we were. But the reality is that is exactly how I feel today, that we are completely on our own, because we are having another terrorist attack, this time from within. And both Democrats and Republicans are not meeting the moment. They might as well be back at the Capitol Police, kind of looking around being like, oh shit, we never planned for this contingency. Really? You never planned for the terrorist attack? You never planned for Donald Trump? He gave you a blueprint. It was called Project 2025. Like, the Democrats ran on it, but yet did nothing to actually inoculate themselves against it.
And then sat on their hands for 3 months between the election and the inauguration, doing a whole lot of nothing.
So
I
get why you feel this way, Michelle, because
Listen, it sucks. It sucks. And Tara and I say this to each other privately and publicly a lot. And I know that 4 of us do too. No one's coming to save us. It's up to us. It is up to us every single day to fight back and show up. And the last guardrail in this country is the American people.
That's right. Which I think is a good segue into my over it. Speaking of people who are terrible and not coming to save us, I'm over Mitch McConnell. And I'll tell you why. I mean, I've been over Mitch McConnell for a while, but specifically with what's going on, because today Tulsi Gabbard was confirmed as our DNI. And speaking of, 9/11 and what happened after that and how we felt, how unprepared the country actually was. And the Office of National Intelligence, the Director of National Intelligence, was created post 9/11 in order to consolidate under one roof all of our different intelligence services, because part of why we were not prepared and why it fell through the cracks was because nobody was talking to each other. And it was something called the wall of separation that was actually on purpose to try to separate domestic and foreign intelligence gathering. It was a whole thing. It was misguided, and it led to this inability for our intelligence agencies to really talk to each other properly. And that was supposed to be all gone with the Director of National Intelligence, because it was going to be consolidated under one roof and everyone, one person. Well, that person now is Tulsi Gabbard, who is completely unqualified. She is borderline a foreign agent, and was in this weirdo, wacko religious cult. And I don't want to hear anything more about her serving in the military. She was a fucking clerk. Okay. She pushed medical paper. Not saying that people who serve in the military that do administrative jobs are not valuable. They are. Everybody plays a role. Everybody's got to be a cog in the wheel. But let's not act like she was out there Lara Croft or something, doing all this cool stuff that's important or whatever, or run around what's her name from Homeland. So she was not. She's not qualified, and these Republican senators freaking know it. So Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, and all of these people who know better, and Mitch McConnell, who was the leader of these feckless fucks, okay, for years. He actually voted against Tulsi Gabbard today. Well, good for you. But what is that going to do? Your one vote. It doesn't matter. He's taking these votes. He also voted against Pete Hegseth. Well, good. Whoop-de-frickin' do, Mitch McConnell. It's a little late. These are show votes. And Julie and I, we both worked on Capitol Hill. And so we kind of know how these members operate. So what they'll do is, a lot of times when they know the vote's going to go one way or the other, they'll find out if their vote makes a difference or not. And if it doesn't, then I'll vote against it now, or I'll vote for it, or whatever. So they can say, see, I stood up and I did or did not vote for X, Y, and Z, even though they know that their vote doesn't make a damn bit of difference. And right now, every single one of these votes makes a huge difference. The Republican senators, I did my rant on this, my Set Mayor Sound Off on Don Lemon's channel last week, about how I blame Republicans for the situation we're in. Democrats are going to Democrat, but the Republicans are the ones who have the actual power here, and they fucking know better. And Mitch McConnell knows better. And here he is. What does he want, a cookie? Does he want a gold star now because he's deciding that he can pass these votes? Fuck out of here. I'm over him. And I don't want to hear anybody giving him credit for doing things he's supposed to do.
You know what's interesting to me, and I wonder if you guys think this, if I were, the Five Eyes, which I don't know if people are aware. So the Five Eyes are, I think we talked about this on Saturday, but it's us, Canada, Britain, Australia, New Zealand, the 5 English-speaking countries, right? We all share intelligence with each other. And the Brits have the best intelligence. I mean, the British foreign, it's
MI6, MI5, James Bond, the Brits.
They have an incredible intelligence apparatus. And I wonder if the head of whoever, whoever the James Bond, but the head of their intelligence operation, the head of Canadian intelligence, came to these senators privately, went to John Thune privately, said, Mr. Leader, senators, we will not share information with you if Tulsi Gabbard is in charge, because we have sources and we have methods, and some of them are embedded in the Kremlin, and some of them are embedded in Beijing, and some of them are embedded places where if the opposing country were to find out, we would be exposed and these sources would be dead and our methods would be busted.
Yep.
So we can't share this with you because Tulsi Gabbard has been very open about how much she loves Vladimir Putin. She's been very open to me. She went and hung out with Bashar al-Assad and didn't tell anybody. She showed up in Moscow. I wonder how that happened.
While she was a member of Congress, right?
While she was a member of Congress.
Yeah.
And, the recount just did a side by, I think it was the recount, did a side by side of her talking point. And they have her talking for 30 seconds. And then they have a Vladimir Putin almost using the exact same words.
I can't.
And these are people who will tell you that the greatest generation, fought fascism abroad so that we can have the freedom we have. They're the same people who will say that.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we are handing all of this to Putin on a silver fucking platter. And by the way, why on earth would anyone share intelligence with us now when the leader of all of this kept our national security secrets in his fucking bathroom? Folks, they were in his bathroom. I don't know what was in those boxes, but it was a lot of boxes. And we know that those boxes contain some shit that clearly I wouldn't be able to get my eyes on. Not to mention, so that he's appointing a foreign agent. It's like, if I were, anything, I'd be like, oh yeah, sure. Let's see how this goes, and hand them some bullshit and be like, yep, that's where that went. And now we know, like, nope, America, sorry guys. They're on a read-only, like, I don't know what the technical term is, but like, don't let them have all the secrets. Sorry.
But that's the thing. So that's my question. I assume that somebody made these senators aware of what this means. And yet, they still voted the way they did, which I want to be very clear about.
Yep.
As somebody who all of us lived through 9/11. If something like this happens again, and the likelihood of it just went up because these people are not going to share their intelligence with us. And by the way, the big brave United States can't do it alone. That's why we have allies.
No.
That's right.
So,
kick me.
like, you think Mossad, as close as Netanyahu is to Biden, to Trump, certainly not close to Biden, to Trump, you think the Israelis are going to share intelligence with us? Hell no.
No.
So when this happens again, and something will happen again, mark my words, it is on them.
Yes.
I'll give them a pass. It is on Susan Collins, who's up in 2 years. It is on Tom Tillis, who's up in 2 years. It is on all of them, except for Mitch McConnell, who was responsible for all of this because he could have gotten rid of Trump after January 6th, and he chose Trump.
And he's not going to make it another 2 years in the Senate. He knows that too.
I know he already fell down how many times? Like he knows he's on his way out. But like Mitch McConnell doing this now is completely moot. It is, you are not going to, that's right. You're not going to change what your legacy actually is, which was the obstruction through all those years when you were Senate Majority Leader, brilliantly from the opposition party. By the way, Democrats, take a page out of the playbook. I know I was a Republican. There's ways that you can make life way more difficult for Republicans. So like, get off your asses and do it. But Mitch McConnell is responsible for why we have the Supreme Court we have and why we have Donald Trump still in office today, to Julie's point. He could have put his foot down and put the fear of God and the rest of those other senators and said, look, we've got your back. We're not going to let this guy after January 6th take down our democracy and our Constitution. Band together. Let's end this guy. And they could have ended him politically, but they didn't do that. They were too chicken shit to take the political risk, which it shouldn't have been. It should not have been a political risk to stop a guy who just incited a violent insurrection to take down our free and fair election, to stand up to him. What does that say about us?
And that was the closest they ever got. That was the closest they ever got to having a spine. And if Mitch had taken advantage of the I'm out, Lindsey Graham speeches and all, if they had gone to the airports and gotten booed and yelled at, but they all got booed and yelled at, and it wasn't just a handful of people who had a spine adjacent moment, we would be looking at a very different reality for this country. But I call them self-gelding Republicans, because that's what it feels like. It feels like they keep chopping off their own junk for what I'll never know. For what you think that somebody's going to do you a favor at any point? You are expendable. You are as useful as this vote. You are as useful as that one. And then as soon as they can cut you loose or fucking do whatever they want to you, you're gone. How many people have to repeat this lesson? And speaking of another fucking performative asshole, can I just for one second speak about who I'm over? Because Nancy bullshit, pimple tits, Chester Prynne is the biggest twat in all the land of twat. And I've seen some twat in my life. She takes the twat. Okay,
the Jerseyest of Jersey over it. You will ever hear.
My Jersey can't go there, but go ahead.
I'm gonna sit back and enjoy this one. Go.
Fucking DEI military school graduate Mace. Okay, let's talk about Nancy Mace because I don't know if you guys know this, but God sent her to stand up to sexual predators. That's what Nancy Mace, Nancy, now that she's not checking genitalia outside of bathrooms, Mace, God sent her to stand up and speak out against sexual predators. Oh, yeah. That's funny because I remember when George Stephanopoulos asked you how, as a survivor, hello, fellow survivor here of rape, how you could endorse and campaign for a man who not only bragged about sexual assault, but was found liable by a court and a jury of sexual abuse. A man who not just once, but more than once bragged about grabbing women by the pussy because when you're a celebrity, they let you do it. Nancy Mace was not sent by jack shit to stand up against sexual predators because if she did, if she actually used her stories for good to stand up against sexual predators, she would start with the melted Oompa Loompa in the White House. But she's not. Why? Because I don't know what the hell happened.
What happened
Something
to her?
gross.
Oh, I know what happened to her. I think I know it. She wants to
She
run.
was-
She wants to run against Lindsey Graham. It's so
Oh,
odd.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
good.
Oh.
Well,
Yes,
I mean-
she wants to be a senator, and she's going to try to out Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham. She's going to try to.
Like, we're
suck
getting
up-
to the
Well,
point
I mean, I think she's going to try to out Lindsey Graham.
yeah, but like her cross earrings are like this big now. Sorry, Garrett Cole. But like it's like the bigger the cross, like the more you're telling on yourself, right? Like,
Yes.
and by the way, I don't need to see your tits. Look, I got
I
tits too, but I don't need to put my tits in everything I do. That's not how I'm going to get your attention to
Yeah.
make this case about sexual abusers. Okay, like I like whatever. I'm so over it. She had, and the last thing I'll say. She had the audacity to tell George Stephanopoulos that she did not believe E. Jean Carroll. And I will tell you, as a survivor, and anybody out there, God bless you. If you are living with this privately and you haven't been able to share your truth, I see you. I understand that, and I understand you. But I believe everyone. I believe all survivors. I know it took me decades. I've never even had to sit down with my sisters about this because it is still very hard. But Nancy said that she didn't believe E. Jean Carroll, but she wants us to believe her. How does that work? Someone explain that to me. How does that work?
It doesn't.
I'm
It
over it.
doesn't. She's terrible, and you know
I think
I didn't even think of the political side of this with her because she is just so broken, and it
Yeah.
just seemed to the 180 where like just like 2.5 years ago, she actually sounded sane.
Yeah.
And I think I actually was like when she was going after Marjorie Taylor Greene and like the QAnon bullshit and all that, and she actually was like pro LGBTQ rights and stuff like. And then all of a sudden, she made the decision, like Elise Stefanik and a lot of these other MAGA fembot bitches, to decide that no, I'm gonna get the work done. I'm gonna prop the tits up, and I'm gonna go out there and do what the MAGA women do here. And this has been, I mean, it's made her a star on the wacko side.
I mean,
of
I guess
stuff.
you could call her that. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying for them, on their side. But
She's
like,
young.
but those of us who live on Earth 1 are looking at her going, "What is wrong with you? Get some help.
Right.
Someone get help.
Have
Get
you
help for
noticed-
her."
Have
Does
you
she
noticed? Have you noticed that they all literally have like the same hair and makeup? Like they all,
Yeah.
like I don't know, they went to Fox News and decided to raid their hair and makeup department. I say this as somebody who loved the Fox News hair and makeup department. The only thing I miss about working there is the hair and makeup department, so I'm not down on them.
Yeah, I have friends that still work there, and they're some of the best.
But there is the very particular look that we all had to have when we worked at Fox News, and I feel like everybody in Trump world has to emulate that look. And so you have this transformation of Elise Stefanik. You have this transformation of like
Christy Nome.
Christy Nome. Oh my God.
That was the best example of that. Who had, I mean, good God! Like at some point, the doctor has to say, "I can't do this ethically anymore." Like,
Yeah, it looks like Fox. If the Fox makeup artist was a rabid, drunk raccoon hopped up on ketamine and wearing a blindfold. That's
Elon Musk's makeup artist.
That's it.
Listen, this is a group of women, right? Who it's very clear to me that they do not have any gay men in their lives.
Yeah.
A, help them, and B, tell them the truth.
Correct.
Or at least we out gay men. because
Yes.
anybody worth their salt would be like, honey, no, you're
Right.
not doing that. Let me help you. Or let me
Yes.
find somebody who can help you.
That's facts.
Some of the
cosplaying at the border.
most loving, honest, true-hearted people in my life are my gay male friends, and they keep it
Amen.
cool all the time. And this is why I hope people, if you're listening, go follow Suzanne Lambert on Instagram. She is like the liberal Regina George, and she is
We
taking
just
the
talked to her last night.
Republican. She is taking the Republican makeup situation to task, and it is hilarious.
So she was on a call we were on last night, and I was unfamiliar with her until
too.
Michelle brought her up to me, and I just recently.
Yeah.
And then when she was on this call with all of us last night, I was like, oh my God, that's her. She
Yeah.
is hysterical. And she also was going after Caroline Levitt's makeup. And she's like, you noticed she's changed it. So I don't know if she saw or heard me or not, but good
Probably
for you,
did.
honey. Like
Once-
we are here for being
baby
this
step.
petty.
The
Right,
contouring.
like if I look at you, at least look good.
Yeah.
Well, the
Yeah.
contouring is like, I was like, are you contouring or are you auditioning for Les Mis? Like, I don't know. There's just so much.
Well,
Like, stop.
Speaking of so much, and this is another thing I'm over, which I say often, is I'm over the shoe polish shit brown shellac that Donald Trump puts on his fucking face. What is this?
Did you see him at the Super
Darker than
Bowl?
I am.
He looked
Oh my
extra like yellowy orange yesterday.
He did. I'm like, what
so
is this?
Yeah.
Why doesn't like just that should have been
Who's gonna say?
disqualifying for
Who's
him
gonna,
alone.
who's gonna say, Tim?
I know. Well, I don't know, but like
Me. Put me in the room. Put me in the room.
I worked for a politician whose wife dressed, shall we say, provocatively, and the number of people who went up to me were like, "You should tell her to really tone it down." I was like, "You should tell her to tone it down."
right.
Like I'm not going to tell a grown woman how to dress, and so
Oh, hell
instead of
no.
telling an 80-year-old man how to shellac his face, like he obviously thinks he looks fantastic. He looks like a fucking Oompa Loompa.
It's part of the cult. It's part of the cult.
It's
It gives off
terrible.
But if the
energy.
emperor has no clothes, right? Like they all sit there, Mr. President,
Yes.
you look so good. Like they all know. Melania. Well, first of all, I don't think Melania cares because she's just cashing in. But I mean, she's
Yeah,
got
no, she didn't give a shit.
wrapped up.
Yeah.
But like, who cares enough about? The problem for Donald Trump is I don't think there's anybody in his life who cares
No.
enough about him to tell him the truth.
No,
Yeah.
I almost think
No.
they secretly liked watching him make an ass of himself. It's like this weird, like,
Yeah.
let him go out there because he is such an awful, horrible human being. But I
Yeah.
just like, and I'll let you finish in a second. But like the cognitive dissonance here with him, as dark as he is, for somebody that doesn't like people of color, he sure as hell tries really hard to look like us.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, talk about DEI, dude. You're DYE.
But I've got news for you, Trump and MAGA. They not like us. We
Yeah,
don't look like that. We don't look like that.
And I just want to just like really quick, just put a pin in this. And maybe, I don't know, we don't really have time to talk about this because I don't think the three of you have seen this. At least Tara, I don't think you have.
Oh, hell.
They're picking up. So when he was in the Oval Office yesterday, sitting down submissively while Elon
Oh.
Musk stood over him, taking questions from the press,
Oh,
which
I saw that. I came in on the latter half.
There
so
were
so
two toddlers
the
in
part about this is that people are starting to pick apart today, and I've seen it on Instagram on at least 3 or 4 accounts this morning. Elon Musk's kid, if you see him walk up to Donald Trump
Pick his
and
nose.
he picks his nose and then he says, this is what it sounds like. I'm not saying he said this, what it sounds like. Something like, "You're not president, shush your mouth."
Well,
I'm-
we know he hates kids, so
Right. So I'm just saying that this,
Please, Jesus.
go and look at it. Go and look at it because people are posting that this is what this little kid said. And listen,
oh, wait a minute. The little kid said this?
Kyle,
Oh, I missed that.
Kyle,
Oh.
Little
I
X.
didn't hear it.
Oh,
I saw
didn't
one where it's
hear it
like,
in the
"Why are
moment.
you in my daddy's chair?" Like, but he
Yeah.
didn't say that. But
I
like,
saw somebody do that meme.
Yeah.
But
Right.
he goes up and says something about like, "Shush your mouth, you're not the president," or something. That's
Well,
what it sounds like. That's what it sounds
I-
like.
that's
Wait,
my
wait,
ringtone.
why would we be shocked at this? You know, Elon
I'm
Musk
not.
is running around telling his kid
Yes.
that I'm actually president. He's probably doing the goofy freaking dance in his stupid unfitted shirts they're too tight in a mirror going, I'm president. I'm president, like an asshole that he is.
By the way, like, did Elon Musk steal that kid from Grimes? Because
Well,
I'm serious. Like, I think there's some sort of weird situation there because Grimes then tweets out yesterday, "Thank you for bringing to my attention that my child was in the Oval Office. He should not have been there. Like, he shouldn't be at this forward facing, basically, like it's a security threat."
Michelle has a theory, and I've seen it more and more now. She's been saying this for weeks, ever since the kid showed up. And I also tweeted about like what's with the kid everywhere and
Human
people
shield.
and their theories. Michelle was one of the first people to say this, and you're not alone. Michelle, what's your theory?
I think that he's afraid of someone harming him. And I think that if he puts his kid on his shoulders, he thinks that no one will harm him.
That he's using his kid as a human shield.
That's
And I thought this was really cynical and dark at first, but then the more I was watching what was going on, and I thought to myself, you know what?
Again,
this is not
A
implausible.
lack of imagination.
And
What's-
lots of people are starting to say that. Somebody in the comments even said it. They
Yeah, I
called it
believe
his
it. I mean,
child's shield.
The worst thing you can imagine is probably a tenth of what is actually true, right? Because it's probably much, much worse. I will say this, it's funny because there were 2 toddlers in the room and Elon's kid was the only one that was potty trained. But that as an aside.
All right, you guys, because we're wrapping up. First of all,
Yeah.
I want one housekeeping thing. I want everybody who's listening to this right now or on replay to email us and tell us what they're over, and we'll talk about it. Like, it's not just about what we're over. I am positive that everybody listening to this has at least 20,000 things that they're over. Share just one. We don't need to hear all 20,000, but just tell us, like, we don't need to hear about your ex-husband, but tell us what you're over in the world that we can talk about, and we'll talk about it. The other housekeeping we want to say is,
Well, post it. You said email. We don't have our emails, but it's like a habit. It's a habit. Post it on our socials and hashtag over it.
sorry, hashtag over it, post on socials, tag
Comments on the YouTube.
Yeah,
We'll
whatever
see it.
Substack.
but hashtag, thanks Tara, hashtag over it, because we need to know what you're, we need to figure out how to get it. The second thing I want to say is we were so incredibly overwhelmed on Saturday because on a few hours notice, we said, what the hell, let's throw together this coffee and conversation completely spontaneously Saturday morning in our PJs, and 10,000 people showed up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if people realize 10,000 people watched it, which just completely underscores that this is like a community that we're building together with all of you. So we're going to do it again this Saturday, and we want you guys to join. Like, if you just grab a cup of coffee, grab a Bloody Mary, grab your computer, and just we'll tweet out the link and we'll put it up on socials. But same as last time, I'll tell my Nazi dating story, even though the guy's not a Nazi. But
I'll let you guys know how flying and shooting was on Friday.
Yeah. If you combine those at the same time, Tara, it would be epic.
Tara,
I
that would
mean, look,
plane if you were like flying and shooting at the same time.
listen, if there was a way, I would like Tom Cruise Mission Impossible style, I would be here for it.
I love it.
So I think that we should add maybe things that we are here for, in addition to our over it's. What are we here for? We can add that to kind of our discussions, because I'm here for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
Yeah, I'm here for the
Responsibly, just like drinking, shooting responsibly and legally.
Yeah. Right. But you guys, I mean, like, that's what really we're all here for. We are here because what the hell is going on in the world? And we just want to talk about it. And not all of it's going to be about politics, as we said earlier, because we all have lives outside politics. And sometimes it's actually healthy to talk about how much I hate Valentine's Day as opposed to how much I hate Donald Trump. So
10 a.m. 10 a.m. Saturday.
Be there. We are so psyched. Ladies, any last words before we say goodbye? And we will see you back here again next Wednesday at noon. But is there anybody else who wants to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to pick up on something Michelle said real fast, because it like really resonated with me about being afraid of flying and understanding that like that safety net is an illusion and things like that. And I just want to say, Michelle, I totally see you and hear you, and I get that too. And one of the antidotes to us kind of leaning into that despair is being connected and not being isolated, because when we're alone, it can often, those things can like really compound upon themselves. But when you have an outlet or a place to feel safe and seen and sane-ish, I always say, but like other people to bounce that stuff off of, it takes a lot of its power away, and it puts a lot of power back in our own laps. And like that's what is so important about conversations like this and communities like these, because it's like I could see myself spinning into a lot of really freaked out worry, and it's totally understandable because that's what's being done by design. But you know, not being alone and having other people to make yourself feel like, okay, hold on, that's the cure, that's the fix. And so that's why I love these conversations. I love you guys, and I love this whole community that we're building, and it's really going to keep us as safe and seen and sane-ish as possible.
That's beautifully said, Joe. You got away with words. That was good.
I'm drunk. Fine.
Listen, that's the key, guys. We look, there's you never know what's in our cups.
And this is actually tea, which is so boring. But
I know this is actually water, but but listen,
now, but doesn't always have to be.
That's true. I've done plenty of shows with a good drink in my hand.
Oh, yeah.
Our evening show on Thursdays, Michelle and I do a show called The Stakes for Seneca Project. So if you guys want to hear more from Michelle and I, where we do deep dives into what's happening, particularly on women's issues, on a lot of things, because that's what we do at Seneca, among other things concerning democracy, check us out on Thursdays live at Seneca Project on The Stakes. Michelle, you have a final word?
Yes, and that's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. And my last thing is, the thing that I'm here for is the women who are keeping their head in the game and staying informed and getting ahead and telling the stories and sharing the information. And one of the things that we didn't have time to talk about today, but hopefully we will at some point soon, it's a bit of homework. If you don't know what the SAVE Act is yet, go and Google the SAVE Act. It is something that has been introduced into Congress several times over many, many years, but this time feels a lot more sinister. And the background with that is they're trying to disenfranchise women, married women voters and immigrants, saying that if your ID doesn't match your birth certificate, that you are ineligible to vote, which if you're a woman and you changed your name when you got married, that would be you. Now, the workaround is, oh, well, you can just get a passport. Passport works too. Passports are expensive. A lot of people don't have them. So this is meant to disenfranchise women, because they have been talking openly for years now about how they could get their agenda through faster if women were not allowed to vote. And the 19th Amendment did not exist.
Yep.
So I say all that to say, go do some research. If you're seeing a bunch of viral videos, women doing direct to cameras talking about this. Oh, is this true? Yes, it is true. Share it with everybody that you know. Make sure that you tell as many people as possible, because you know what? They're hoping that this stuff slips under the radar and then it passes and it's impossible to undo. So if we push back and we get loud and we make sure this is just yet another thing that we know about and we're going to scream about and yell about and call our representatives about, just make sure that we are ahead of the game here. And that's super important. So homework, go and look up the SAVE Act.
Yep. Absolutely.
It is 1 p.m. Eastern, which means we're going to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you back here next Wednesday at noon. We're also going to see you Saturday for Coffee and Conversation. Bring your coffee. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.